Hey, what's going on, folks? It's Mike here, and welcome to this lesson in our developer series where I just talk about some interesting or useful tools. And as some folks know, I'm a big Vim user, and something that stumped me for a long time was how to get auto-completion working properly in Vim. In fact, often I avoid it just because it sort of obfuscates or makes more difficult the compilation process, needing to build a CMake file, a compilation commands database, and so on. But in this lesson, I'm going to sort of resolve things for you and show you one way that you can get Intellisense working in Vim. That is autocomplete, showing you the types, and not just of standard libraries or files that are included in your project, but of header files or anything that you're including in C++. So it's a bit of a ride here, but I want to go ahead and show you how to get this working in at least one way if you are a diehard Vim user like me. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into this lesson.
Okay, folks, so let me demonstrate the problem that's frustrated me for a long time as a Vim user, not having fancy autocomplete. So for example, if I'm writing this code from a series that I'm working on, I can do stuff like Control N and it'll autocomplete the button, and maybe I create another button here, but I don't get any help here, right? Control N, and I don't get really any useful keywords or completion other than things that I've already typed. So we want to fix this and have some sort of auto complete or an Intellisense-like feature that many other IDEs have. So let me go ahead and put this away for a moment, and we'll revisit this window here and see how we can get this feature. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do is introduce a plugin here in Vim called Conquer of Completion. And you can use NeoVim or Vim here. The key point, though, is that you're going to need to update your version of Vim. So if you scroll up here a little bit, to version 8.1 or above. I believe that's the current prerequisite for installing this tool. So go ahead and take a moment to do that, whether you're on a Mac, Windows, or Linux machine. Now, just taking a look at this tool here, let's go ahead and figure out how do we get this installed. So again, I don't have anything beyond just Vim here installed. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is essentially work with the vim plug tool. In fact, if I look at my vimrc file here, which let me make this a little bit bigger so you can actually read it, you'll see that I have nothing here. So we're truly starting from scratch here to get our Vim set up here. Okay, so what I'm going to need to do to get this installed here is I'm going to want to use the release branch here. Okay, so what exactly does this mean? Well, I'm going to install this plugin using Vim plug. So let me go ahead and open up Vim plug. And again, you can follow from this URL here. So how do we get set up with this? So if you're on Linux, just go ahead and copy this text here. And I'll go ahead and paste this in, hit enter, and you should be installed with Vim plug. Now you can go ahead and see some of the examples here, but the basic idea is we'll have this function here that we call in our vimrc file, which installs plugins. Again, those were the things that look like here. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and start off our vimrc file. If you don't have one, you can create a new one here. And let's just go ahead and call the plug begin, which will be called when we start our code. So I'll go ahead and save that quick. And then the plug end when we're done installing our plugins. Okay, so I'll have this here. And then let's go ahead and work with, back at the Conquer of Completion site, I'm going to copy in this plug here. And if you're using NeoVim, you'll of course copy in this. This will work with both systems here. And I'm not going to build it from source, though sometimes I do like doing that. Okay, so I'll go ahead and hit that, and then I'll go ahead and save, so WQ in the bottom left corner here. And let's just go ahead and open up some file here, say for C++. And in order to use Vim plug, if you haven't, you'll then type plug install. Just go ahead and copy and paste that. Let me move this to the center of my screen here. And I'll hit enter, and we'll see that it is now installed here. Okay, so what do we do at this point if we're going to proceed with installing or getting this auto completion here? Well, we've got the plugin installed, and we want to do some interesting things perhaps. So I'm going to go ahead and just scroll through this and get us to the configuration here. So again, in our vimrc file, again, mine's empty. I'm just going to copy and paste this whole thing here. So let me go ahead and just hit copy here so you can briefly look through it. Basically, it's setting up some different key mappings that we might have and so on. So let's go ahead and scroll through that. Open up our vimrc file, which is where we're going to set this up. Now we want to keep our install and all these things here. I'll go ahead and put it at the top and then paste in all of the rest of our new configuration here from the Conquer and Completion, just the defaults that they have. Now you might play around with that later, but that's what we have here. So here's my Vim main here, and let's see if it's doing anything for us. Well, what we'll notice is new here is as I sort of type out some things, I am getting some completion here, things like return and so on. In fact, if I even start doing other things like including IO stream, it seems to have found this file. I can hit tab to autocomplete and move from here. So this is pretty cool here. Now, this is kind of interesting though. If I scroll down here, let me make this a little bit bigger. What's exactly going on here? I don't have my line numbers here. Let me go ahead and set number so we can just get those here. But I am getting some arrow here. And it is showing me that, hey, maybe I've done something wrong here. So I'm getting some diagnostics, which is pretty cool from this tool. Now, what other configuration things can we set up here? So I'm going to go ahead and scroll up here in the configuration, and we can set up or compile basically what language we want this plugin to work with. Now here you're going to see there's some sort of TypeScript server and these sort of things, but again, I want to show you C++. That's what I'm normally doing on these sort of tutorials here. So how do I get this set up with C++ here? I can kind of scroll around here and try to figure out what exactly to do here. And let me go ahead and just make this window a little bit bigger. And again, I'm doing this from scratch so that folks can see how to debug this here. You might want to look at some of the extensions. And the extensions are going to be the things that give you different power here. So again, I'm going to scroll through this fast. And for C++ users, I'm going to use clang diagnostics here to basically set up or get things working so that we can do error checking and intelligent completion here. Because right now we can maybe do some interesting things here, like I've got the standard cout and so on. So that seems to be working well enough. And what if I try vector, for instance? Well, again, not anything intelligent at this point. But if I do include vector here, and then I have standard vector v, maybe that is giving me this data type. It is searching and finding what I have available here. Okay, and even some of the perhaps interesting things, but v dot's not really completing or doing anything interesting, right? I can't push back or see any of these things. Now I'm even going to go to an example here where I'm working in wwidgets. Let me remove that file here. And let's go ahead into this main file here, which I have open in this other window here. Let me actually close this down and just relaunch it. And you're going to notice here, I'm getting lots of errors here as soon as I include something that's a non-standard header file here. It doesn't know how to find this tool here. So again, I need to do a little bit of work here, and that's what I'm getting to for installing these extensions. Okay, so how do I install this clang diagnostic here? Well, I can do capital C, hit tab a couple times, and I'll find install clangd. Let's see what that does here. And it's going to take a few minutes to install here. And let's see what happened here. So let me go ahead and quit. I'm just going to quit this again, run it again, and let me go ahead and do cost command clangd.install. And it just takes a few moments to install here. All right. Now, what did that fix here? Well, it still says too many errors. Maybe I have to quit and restart. Nope, still getting too many errors here. So we are running into some problems here. Now, oftentimes in order to get these programs running, we need to install some sort of background server to run things. So CCLS is one example of those tools here. I'll just hit enter. Let me go ahead and get rid of this here. CCLS, let me go ahead and show here, is a basically code completion engine that can run in the background here. So let me go ahead and back up and show how to install that tool here. Now I found some helpful sort of defaults, again, for setting things up with Clang here. And this goes to the COC, and I'll back up here, config command, hit enter. And this is basically what I set up for the language server. So this ccls tool, which will basically search C, C++, tools, and so on to get things ready. Okay, so let me go ahead and ccls. I'll find the GitHub here, and this is the tool that you'll want to install. Now, one way to do this is to go ahead and do sudo apt-get install ccls. Go ahead and see if you have it available here. I actually didn't have it, so you might have to do snap install classic. Let me make this a little bit bigger here. ccls on your machine. If you don't do sudo, it's going to ask you. And I've already installed it. So here's just the magic command to get this language server up and running for the C and C++ language. And these defaults I found by Googling, so I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger so you can see on the screen for a moment what exactly this is here. Basically, this is just saying, okay, what's the command that's going to be running, some arguments, the file types, C, C++ files, etc. that we want to look at in various patterns. Okay, so that's one thing you'll have to do is run that COC, lowercase c, config command to set up this file, and just go ahead and paste this in here. Now, we're still having a problem though, in that I am getting errors here because, well, again, if I run the COC config command, we're missing something, and we're missing a compile commands JSON file, which is where we often figure out when we're building our source code. In this example, I have the WX widgets library, where that comes from. Now, there are some helpful tools, and this is what I'm going to spend a little bit more time doing in this tutorial. So again, make sure you've installed this language server here that are helpful. So what is this compilation database? Basically, it looks through all the header files that you're compiling in your project, and that's where it's gathering code completion information. Now, I found some specialized tools here. So to avoid CMake, and I'll do a CMake lesson at some point here, I found bear is a pretty useful tool, bear or scan build. So let's just go ahead and try to install this tool bear. Again, I don't have it available on my system. So sudo apt-get install bear, type in my password, and we'll get this set up here. And basically, you just run bear by typing out bear. So let's see if we actually got it installed properly here. Let me go ahead and install it again here. So it says I do have bear 2.311 or whatever. Okay. Let me open up another terminal. Sometimes I have to refresh it here. And here's the usage here. So on occasion, as you're installing commands, make sure you refresh your shell. Okay, so that's all I've done here. So let me cd into that directory here where I was. Okay, and basically here's my build command that I have to build this project with wx config here. So let me actually grab it here. And I've got a shell script here. So let me go ahead and just run this shell script. And you can see what the actual program is. It should be something like this. Okay, and let me remove the program just so there's no binary. And let's go ahead and try that command here. So what bear is going to do is basically just take this command and intercept all the libraries that are linked in and so on. Now, it doesn't work with everything, like load preload, for example, but it should work something like this. So I run this, and then you get the output is a compile commands JSON database here. So if I look at this, though, it is empty. And this is a problem that I have with the bear tool. When I install it, you just get an empty compilation. So if you look at your bear version here, 2.3 3.11 seems to cause problems. So what I'm going to do instead is build this from source here. And let me go ahead and just copy this repository. And you can see that the latest version's pretty new. It's been kept up to date here. So let me go ahead and copy this. And I'm just going to do this in another terminal window here. So let me sort of sort out, again, the left side is where I'm going to be building my project. The right side here, let's just install bear here. Okay, so let me go ahead and do a git clone. Let's get that repository and cd into bear. And I'm going to want to make a build directory here. So this is our structure and the new build directory. Okay, so we will revisit this left side here in building with bear in a moment. But again, we've got bear version 2.3 here. Let me just do this here. So we actually want to get rid of this. So sudo apt remove bear. Okay. Or actually, let's see, sudo apt purge. Let's see here, sudo, I gotta remember what this is, bear with me. I think that'll do the trick here. Yeah, let's just get rid of it. All right. So now if I type in bear, it doesn't exist. Okay. Okay, so let me go ahead and put this terminal over here. And as far as installing, this has a CMake that's available for us. So let me go ahead and dive into the install MD. We're just going to follow those directions. And basically, this is the build command here. Okay, so what I want to do here, and let me extend this just so you can see it, is run the CMake command, and I'm going to replace the source directory where our actual source is. So typically, what you do is you navigate into your build directory. Again, this is empty here, just so you can see where we are, and run this command here. So let me go ahead and copy this. Let me just do this one line at a time here. Now this is going to give me a little bit of an error because I need to specify where that build directory is here. So I need to do ... That's where the source level directory is here. So here it is all in one line. I'll hit enter, and this is essentially going to build a make file for me. Now bear, just a word of caution, uses a new C compiler. So it does use things like file system, for instance, C++, 20, that is. So check your GNU version here, or your C++ compiler like clang, or something that's defaulting to C++ 17 is needed. Otherwise, make sure you're using your default, G++ 10 will do the trick here. All right, so once we've done this, let's go ahead and just make all here. And I'm going to run this with J12 here, so we can do this with some threads. And this is just going to take a few moments to build. Now, I will warn, I did have one dependency error here. So let me see if I can find in my history, if I grep for SSL here. I had to install libssl-dev here. So you might run into that problem. I haven't gone back and uninstalled this, but that's what you'll need to do here. There is one dependency on bear here. All right, so that's just a word of caution if you do get any dependency errors. Okay, so bear actually takes quite a bit to install, so I'm going to let that kind of run here. And again, some of the things that I ran into were just bear's compilation giving me, basically nothing here. So I did a lot of Stack Overflow searching, and basically it told me to update bear. So if you're on Linux, Mac, or whatever systems, that seemed to be the case here. So let me go ahead and get rid of that stuff. Now there are some other tools that you can use. If this doesn't work, you can try intercept build. Maybe you'll have better luck if you're running this on a Mac or whatever, if bear doesn't work, but there are two tools doing the same thing. And again, if you are familiar with the compile commands database, go ahead and just use a tool like CMake and make sure to export commands on and make sure you get that database here. All right, so that's about as much as I can stall while this builds here. So let's just go ahead and give this a moment. All right, so it looks like we've made the end here, and our bear tool has run. Now if we just try to type out bear here, again, we're not going to find it, so we have one more quick install to do. make install, and we need sudo permissions here. So I'll just bring that to the top of the screen, type in whatever your password is, and now you should have bear available here. If I go ahead and do a bear version, we have something more reasonable, bear version 3.0 and beyond. Now let's go ahead and open up this other terminal here. Now if I do type in bear here, again, my shell hasn't refreshed, so I'm just going to go ahead and terminate that terminal here, and I'll navigate to the appropriate folder here. And again, remember our goal was to get a non-empty compiles command here. So what I'm going to do is do bear and whatever the compilation command was. In fact, let me just steal this command here from my build script. So again, whatever your command is, you can just, that you're running on the terminal or maybe from a shell script or whatever, this bear tool can intercept here. So again, that's just what I'm going to show here. So here it is, bear and so on. Let's go ahead and get it all on one line. If I hit enter, it's going to complain about it. It doesn't like that output parameter because we need a dash dash and a space here. And it'll take just a moment to run here. And now if I look at my compiles command, I've actually got some information about the arguments being passed in. Now this is the information that our tools like Vim, for instance, and Clang Diagnostic are using to say, hey, this is the path to the actual include. So it's intercepting these this information, the libraries, the source files, the directories where you find stuff, and so on. Okay, so that's pretty cool now. Let's see if we have achieved our objective here. If I go ahead and look at the main here, and let's go ahead and set a number here so we can get some numbers and some useful information. I don't see as much red here, which is good. So let me go ahead and just save here. And let's try to type something out like WX. And now I'm actually getting some cool stuff here. WX button here. If I do b dot, set background color, and I'm actually getting some actual code completion stuff. And this tells me, okay, I need a WX color here. So let's go ahead and create a WX color with the appropriate spelling here. And again, we can see all the different overloads here. Whoops, let me go ahead and walk back here. And let's go ahead and well, let me just type out some color here. 255, 0, 0 here. Okay, so we're going to have an intense red button. And it is informing me, hey, there's a problem with this here. So I can put a semicolon. Let's go ahead and save. It seems happy. I'll quit this. Let me go ahead and rebuild. And every time I rebuild, I'm going to rebuild. I guess since I haven't changed anything or added any files, I don't necessarily need to rebuild here. The compilation database, so I can get rid of it. You might just do it every time just to be safe so you don't have to worry about it. But again, just understand that's what's going on here. Okay, so now I can actually run this and we get our output here. Well, that didn't actually change the background color because I don't do anything with this here. So let me get rid of this one and use our actual button just so you can see that there was a change here. So rebuild. And rerun here, and then we've got our red button, and we were assisted by autocomplete. So that's the goal of this lesson here. Again, I've wrestled with this for a long time, just figuring out how to get my external libraries to show up and get everything all nice. So again, just as a recap, what did we do? Well, we started with Vim here, again, making sure we had version 8.1 or beyond. And then looking at our tools, we're using this COC completion tool, Conquer of Completion. Let me go ahead and go back here to the main page. We installed it here, just using this command to download it. Then using vim plug, which you set up with your Vim, you added this somewhere in your file. And then as part of your vimrc file, you copy and pasted this. You can add whatever other stuff you want in your vimrc file if you like. And then we ran this COC config, set up our language server. Here was an example one here. You can Google, C++ example. We'll see that this one uses a CCLS tool, which let me go ahead and just find a little bit more on that here. Just for the code completion here. This is the actual tool here, which would have some install here information. You can go to the build I again installed this using the snap tool. So again, snap install classic ccls did the trick here. You can do it with sudo to get that set up here. And then after that, we had to install the bear tool, which builds the compilation database. That was this file here. That's built every time that you run your build command here. So something like this. And you can put this all in a script file and automate it so you don't have to worry about it. So then every time you open up Vim, you have your nice auto completion here. So now I can even do cool stuff like include wx and see all the wx files. It's now finding, that include path and so on. So anyway, I hope that was a useful video. I hope that helped you do something cool in Vim. And I know I wrestled with this for a long time, but now you don't have to.